My name is Min, and I came to Hanoi in the autumn of my 28th year. I was not from the city. I was from a small province in the north, from a family of modest rice farmers who believed in things that modern men had long stopped believing in. My grandmother kept red thread on every doorframe. My mother burned paper money every 7th month. My father never let us whistle after dark. I did not believe in those things. That was my first mistake. I had taken a research position at a university in the city, cataloging ancient folk narratives, collecting oral histories from elderly villagers in the districts along the Red River. It was quiet work, scholarly work, the kind of work that felt very safe when I described it to colleagues over tea. But the villages I visited were not safe. Not all of them. The village of darkened sat 40 kilometers from the city center, along a stretch of river where the water ran dark and slow even in summer. It was not on most maps. The road leading to it was unpaved and narrow, disappearing into stands of bamboo so thick that daylight became something you remembered rather than something you felt. I arrived on a Tuesday in late October. The air smelled of rain and charcoal and something older, something mineral, like wet stone that had not dried in years. An elderly woman named Bahoa met me at the edge of the village. She was perhaps 80, perhaps older. Her eyes were the color of river clay. She looked at me the way people look at someone who is about to make a terrible mistake they cannot yet see. "You are here about the stories," she said. It was not a question. "I am." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Some stories are not for collecting. Some stories collect you." I smiled politely. I wrote nothing in my notebook. The village of darkened had a legend. Every village along the Red River had legends, of course. I had collected dozens by then. Stories of water spirits and hungry ghosts, of serpent gods sleeping beneath the current, of the dead returning to eat what the living had left for them. But the story of darkened was different. Bahoa told it to me that first evening. Sitting beside a clay stove with the rain beginning outside and a single oil lamp between us. 40 years ago, a girl named Lan had been promised in marriage to a man from a wealthy family in the city. The arrangement had been made since childhood. Lan had never met him. She had only seen his photograph. A young man with careful eyes and an expression that gave nothing away. The night before the wedding, Lan went to the river. She went alone, which was the first thing wrong. Girls did not go to the river alone at night. Everyone in the village knew this. The river in this part of the country was deep and had no visible bottom, and it moved in strange directions depending on the season. Old people said that the river was a living thing, that it had moods, that it remembered. Lan did not come back. They found her wedding dress on the bank in the morning, red silk, folded neatly, which was somehow worse than if it had been torn. Her body was never recovered. The wedding was canceled. The man from the city married someone else. The family mourned for 7 days and then tried to continue. But Lan did not leave. The villagers began to see her, always at night, always near the river, always wearing the red dress that she had left folded on the bank, the same dress they had burned as part of her burial rites, the same dress they had watched turn to ash. "She comes back every year," Bahoa said quietly. "On the night of her wedding, she stands at the river and she waits." "What does she wait for?" I asked. Bahoa looked at me with those clay-colored eyes. "Her groom," she said. "She is still waiting to be married. A woman who dies before her wedding. Her spirit cannot rest. She is caught between what was promised and what was taken. She walks between worlds." I nodded. I wrote it all down carefully. I thought it was a remarkable piece of regional folklore. I did not think it was real. That was my second mistake. My room was in a small house at the edge of the village, rented from a widow who kept her shutters closed after dark. The first night I slept poorly, not because of anything frightening, simply because of the river. I could hear from my window a low, continuous sound like breathing, like something enormous and patient drawing air through its chest. The bamboo beyond the window moved without wind, the stalks clicking softly against each other in the dark. Around 2 in the morning, I woke fully. I did not know why. I had not been dreaming. I simply opened my eyes and lay very still in the dark, and I had the absolute certainty, the kind that arrives without explanation and cannot be argued with, that something was standing on the other side of my wall. Not knocking, not scratching, simply standing. I held my breath. After a long moment, I heard a sound, very faint, very close. The sound of wet fabric, like a dress dragging slowly across stone. It passed my window. Then it stopped. I lay awake until morning. I told myself it was a village dog. I told myself it was the widow checking something outside. I told myself many sensible things, and believed none of them. At breakfast, the widow set down my tea and said, without preamble, without looking at me, "You should not be here this week." "Why this week?" I asked. She picked up a cloth and wiped the same spot on the table 3 times. "The anniversary," she said, "of Land's wedding." I put down my cup. "And tonight is the night." I am a researcher, a scholar. I told myself I was going to the river to observe. That was not entirely true. The truth is that something had been pulling at me since I arrived. Something in the quality of the air near the water. Something in the sound the river made at night. I felt it the way you feel a word on the tip of your tongue. Just out of reach, just below understanding. I went at midnight. I brought my lantern and my notebook and told myself I was being professional. The path to the river was narrow and dark. The bamboo on both sides was enormous, 40 feet tall or more, and the stalks blocked the moonlight so completely that my small lantern was the only source of light in the world. The clicking of the bamboo sounded like teeth. I came out onto the riverbank. The river was black, not dark, black, the way old lacquer is black, reflecting everything perfectly and distorting it slightly. The moon sat in it like a white coin dropped into ink. The bank was empty. I stood there for perhaps 20 minutes, listening to the water, feeling foolish. My notebook was open, but I had written nothing. The night insects had gone silent, which I noticed only because of the silence itself. A particular quality of quiet that felt applied rather than natural. Then I smelled it, incense and something beneath it, sweet and faintly rotten, like flowers kept too long in water. I turned. She was standing 10 meters away, red silk in the moonlight, so vivid it looked wet. Her hair was unbound and hung in flat black panels on either side of her face. She was facing the river, not me. I did not move. I could not have told you why. Not fear, not exactly. More like the feeling of watching something you do not yet understand, the instinct to wait, to see, before reacting. Her head turned toward me, slowly, as if she had known I was there the entire time, and was only now choosing to acknowledge it. I could see her face. She was young, perhaps 20, perhaps less. She was beautiful in the way that things preserved in amber are beautiful, perfectly still, holding a moment that has already passed. Her eyes were completely white, not rolled back, not filmed over, simply white, the way paper is white, with no iris, no pupil, no center. She raised one hand, and she pointed at me. I ran. I am not ashamed to say it. Whatever scholarly composure I had arrived would collapse the moment those white eyes found me, and I ran back to the bamboo with my lantern swinging and the clicking of the stalks all around me like laughter. I locked myself in my room. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at my hands until they stopped shaking, and then I opened my notebook, and I wrote down everything I had seen with the frantic precision of someone who was trying to outrun understanding. It did not help, because understanding came anyway. It came slowly, like the river itself, unhurried, inevitable. I thought about what Bahoa had told me, a bride who died before her wedding, a spirit caught between promise and grief, waiting for her groom. I thought about the man in the city, the one whose photograph Lon had only seen once, the one she had never met. I opened my bag and found the folder I carried with me, background materials, documents, photographs collected from local archives. I had been thorough in my research. I always was. I found the photograph, the man from the city, the one Lon had been promised to, a young man with careful eyes and an expression that gave nothing away. I had looked at this photograph 3 days ago when I was preparing for this trip, and had registered it the way you register something peripheral, half noticed, catalog, moved past. I looked at it now. My grandfather, not resembling my grandfather, not reminding me of my grandfather, My grandfather, the same face, the same careful eyes, 40 years younger but unmistakable. My grandfather, who had married my grandmother in the city in the autumn of his 28th year, who had never spoken about where he came from or what he had left behind, who had kept red thread on every doorframe and burned paper money every 7th month, and never once let us whistle after dark, who had died quietly in his sleep 2 months before I accepted this research position. I sat very still for a long time. Outside, the river made its sound, breathing, waiting. She is still waiting for her groom. I thought of the way she had raised her hand, the way she had pointed, not in accusation, in recognition. I left before dawn. I packed my bag in the dark, and I walked the road, and I waited for the first truck heading toward the city. And I did not look at the river. I did not look at the river. I went back to Hanoi. I finished my research from a distance, by telephone and written correspondence. I submitted my paper. I received good marks. I did not return to darkened. I told myself it was over. But the thing about the dead, the thing about real grief, which is what a ghost truly is that it does not require your participation. It waits. It is patient in the way that only permanent things are patient. 3 months after I returned to the city, I woke at 2 a.m. I did not know why. I simply opened my eyes and lay very still, and I had that absolute certainty again, the kind that arrives without explanation. I turned to the window. She was standing in the street below, red silk in the city light, hair unbound, eyes like white paper. She was not pointing this time. She was holding out her hand, as if, after 40 years of waiting, she had finally found what she was looking for, as if she was ready, as if, now that my grandfather was gone, the debt had passed to someone who shared his blood, as if I was the only groom she had left. I closed my eyes. I did not open them until morning. She was gone when the sun came up. But the red thread my grandmother had tied to my doorframe when I was born, the thread that had been there my entire life, worn and faded but unbroken, was on the floor, cut cleanly, as if by scissors, or by a hand that had been reaching through for a very long time, and finally found a way in. Some stories are not for collecting. Some stories collect you.